Hi guys, welcome to my dyeing video where I had a little go at dyeing fabric. Some of it worked really well, some of it, yeah, I set fire to, so yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. I made this video back at the 5 or 6 days ago, and then I've just sitting down to do my Flosstube, and I've realised that I never did the final results wrap up bit, so I'm going to play the video that's already all done and edited, and I'm just going to record on the end of it the wrap up bit for you, and I'll upload this today and I'll do my Flosstube tomorrow. So I shall see you later guys. Bye for now. Good morning guys. It is Saturday morning, it's 8:30 in the morning. It's just getting light outside. The sky is sky blue pink, it's blue at the top and it's pink at the bottom. One of my favourite colours. Hello. So yesterday these guys arrived. Now I know everybody in the US, you can go to your supermarkets to buy these. I can't. These were not desperately hard to get hold of. I got them off eBay and yeah, I can't wait. Anyway, and this is what I can get. This is standard Dylon dye, which is for fabric and yeah, works so-so. Now for years and years and years I have dyed a lot of wool. Here's my old dye pots for wool, and these are acid dyes, acid milling dyes here. This is what I dye my yarn with. Unfortunately it only works on natural animal fibre, so even though I've got all of these and I've done a fair bit of yarn dyeing in the past, can't use them here. I also use Kool-Aid. How does anyone ever drink that stuff? Honestly, it's fluorescent. I've used Kool-Aid to dye yarn before as well, but of course that won't work on fabric either. So yesterday my dye arrived. I've already bought myself a whole load of dye specific pots with lids because I have an Eric, and if I'm going to leave things to sit, I do not want Eric helping himself to it. I don't want a blue or a purple cat or a poisoned cat. So yesterday I cut all my fabrics to size and I've machined. Now my serger is still in the shed. Let me find one that will show up really well. My serger is still in the shed. It's still covered in sawdust. I will get it down, I'm going to get it cleaned up, because if I'm going to do this more often I'm going to need my serger. So what I've done, I've cut my fabric to size and I've gone around twice with my machine set to zigzag. A wide zigzag close together, and on the fabrics that aren't getting dyed, like this one, this is a terrible thread I got from Amazon. I'm just using them up to zigzag round. The fabrics I'm not going to dye, I went round once, and the fabrics I am going to dye, I went round twice, just because I definitely don't want anything. You can see that one's had a double go. I don't want anything to unravel on me. So what have I got here? I've got a piece of white that I'm just going to dye for fun. That'll probably do 2 smalls. I'm going to see what I can do with that. I've got the piece of lilac. Now for the new world, please excuse this terrible picture. It's from, on the pattern you get a thumbnail because you obviously buy each piece singly. So I printed out the thumbnail that was this size on the pattern. I blew it up and I've printed it out. So it's really blurry and the colours are terrible on it, but there's the new world. It's a Barbara Anna, got it from Creative Poppy. I bought this piece a year and a half ago, and yesterday I got the other 4 pieces. And each strip fits 3.5 by, it'll fit that with a 2-inch border, so it's 3.5 by 13 I think, the actual stitch piece, and then you just stitch pieces together. So the blue piece is there, So I'm not dyeing that because I'm happy with the Colonial Blue. So he can go separate away. The mauve piece here, this is lilac. I want this darker. So I'm going to use some purple, and if that's making it too purple, I might put some grey in it, but I'm going to try and get a flat colour, no mottling if I can help it. And I figure mottling is harder, so I'm going to try not to mottle that. So I've got that piece. And the grey, there, I'm going to just try and dye that a bit greyer. They're actually showing quite the colours they actually are right there. I've got a big white light above me, and I've got my ring light on as well in the hope of getting some light, because it's just getting light outside. But if I don't do it now, I'm going to have people in here, and I don't want to be dyeing with a lot of people around me, just in case. So the next thing I'm going to dye is, well, here's what I bought the dye for. This is the piece for my Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. Here. So this is that's going on there. Confession, I ordered from Lakeside last night. I've ordered all the DMC I didn't have. I've ordered over dyes. And I've ordered Swamp. Because mine is going to be reversed, because my fabric's going to be dark. Whoa! Because my fabric's going to be dark. This is plain fabric behind the Swamp. So I ordered Grasshopper, which is the kind of beigey green. So I ordered, so that's going to be the fabric, and that's going to be stitching. I think it's the only one where the contrast is going to be with the dark fabric behind. So instead of stitching the black sky, I'm going to stitch the Swamp. So I already had a skein of Grasshopper, and I looked at that and I went, that's swampy. So I ordered another one to do the Swamp. So that was a bit naughty, but I did sell some needle binders yesterday, so I've kind of given with one hand and taken back with the other. So this I'm going to blurple. And then this is the piece I bought, and then the piece I bought had enough left to have that piece and that piece there. Can you see those are the bits I cut? Yes, and I've got that piece left over, and that's the full piece of fabric I've got. So I put that piece away. So I've got that piece for A New World, which is fine colour, and then I've got my big piece there, and then for this, for the Emma Congdon I found in that magazine that I really, really, really like, I've got this piece, which is just going to get an indigo treatment. I'm going to try and get a flat indigo colour because I don't have any navy blue. I like it very much on the navy blue. My piece of navy blue, one is a really slubby linen, and I like the ease of even weave. You know, I stitch fast. I say it all the time. I do stitch fast, but I pick my fabrics really carefully. I don't stitch difficult heights. I stitch 14, 16, 18 and 20 count heights. I don't do 25 over 1. I don't do 28 over 1. If I did that, I wouldn't get the stitches in. You know, I would be as slow as everybody else. The only reason I'm quick is because I very, very carefully choose my fabrics. I love 40 count. I love 40 count linen. I'm doing pandemic on 40 count linen, but I can't get the number of stitches in that I do. And I don't pick my fabrics to go fast. I pick my fabrics because they're nice to stitch on. Now this piece of blush, I'm just going to have fun with once. These three here actually. Now this was said it was 18 count. This looks like 20. I don't know if it's because it's already been dyed, but it looks really tight and 20-ish to me. So I'm happy with this either way. But can you, I don't know if you can actually even see. It's blowing out the closer it gets. Anyway, it's got speckle on it. It's lilac with a speckle. So I'm going to play around with these. And I'm going to play around with that. Once I've got these dyed, I'm going to have pots of dye left over, so I'm going to muck about. So the first thing I'm going to do is is I'm going to get these all wet. I'm going to get them all damped off, wet and ready. I'm going to get a piece of paper to protect this table, and I'm going to get, now I'm going to set, this sets with salt, and I think you can add salt to these. First aid if swallow. Ooh, poison control. Preparation. Vinegar. Add 1 cup of vinegar to dye bath for nylon, silk or wool. Okay. So maybe I need some vinegar because I've got cotton. Dye bath. Add 1 cup of vinegar. 1 cup of salt for cotton, rayon or linen, and 1 cup of vinegar for nylon, silk or wool. Right, so I'm going to add salt because mostly I'm cotton. And if the colour doesn't take, I'll try it again with vinegar. This is an experiment for me. I've not done this before. I'm going to get all my fabrics in here, get them soaked, get them wet. I'm going to get the table protected. I'm going to get some salty water, and we're gonna have a go. And I'll see you when these are in and wet. Catch you in a minute, guys. Might have gone a bit crazy with the bubbles. That is the tiniest squirt of my shampoo, which is like a very plain coconut Garnier shampoo. It's what I wash. I struggled for years to get yarn, because I used to dye sock yarn, which is generally 75% wool and 25% some sort of nylon or polyamide or something, just to give it some superwash. And when I dyed it, it tended to not, you need something to lay the fibres back flat. And it took me quite a long time to realise that the best thing to get fibres to lie flat is shampoo and conditioner. So I used to shampoo and conditioner my finished dyed yarns. One, it makes them smell, whoa, are we going in and out of focus really badly there? One, it makes them smell brilliant. And 2, it makes the fibres in the yarn all lie back down like the little, almost like the scales. My focus is really struggling with that. I might bring you down a bit when I do the actual dyeing, in the hope that, because you're up on my tripod on the settle. Right, that's all in there. I'm going to give that a couple of minutes and Eric proof it. Everything's going to get Eric proof today. Right, I'm going to go and make a big thing of salty water, and I'm going to go and get some table protector. This is my dad's teak table, which has had far too much life administered to it as it is. Right, yeah, so when this is sat for a few minutes, I will rinse it out because it has bubbled up quite a bit, but that is literally a pea-sized piece of my shampoo in there. Okay, I brought you down a little closer in the hope that we stay in focus a bit better. Here was my fear. I've got a helper. That is extremely salty water. That's got about 5 tablespoons of salt in there. So I found my old dyeing jars. As you can possibly see, there's a little bit of purple at the bottom of them. I've used them for dye before. I found a spoon that doesn't matter. I found some gloves I've pinched from work. They've been in the conservatory in the light. I hope they're not dead. And I found some forks, plastic forks. Anybody else got one of those houses where you've got a million things? I've got easy 3 packets of plastic teaspoons. Can I find a packet of plastic teaspoons this morning when I want them? Weirdly, I've got a packet in my big greenhouse, but there's still an inch of frozen snow out there, so there is no danger of me going up to get them this morning. I don't want my nose running. You don't need to hear me sniffle all the way through this. So, fabric's been soaking. 10 minutes or so, enough time for me to get Clivo in from his constitutional. I think he just sat outside the front door this morning. Got a new cat waterer and feeder, you know, the bottles that sit on the trays upside down, so that they've got cat, we call them cat crackers, dry cat food on tap and fresh water on tap constantly, because Clive goes out and he drinks, but this week he doesn't drink. He's not drinking because everything's frozen outside, so he can't. So I was worried that he wasn't getting enough to drink. I think that's why he's been asking for food constantly. It's just for the moisture. So they arrived yesterday. Eric was, okay, the water's lilac. I've got to assume that that's that, because the Zweigarts will be colour fast. Eric, that's not helpful. Right. Did anybody else see it fall off the table? It's because the paper. Are you alright, buddy? Eric? Now he's going to go and be bad. And you can hear them. You can see what colour that water is now. I reckon that's that lilac. I don't think that's colour fast at all. Oh well. Back in a tick. Boys are doing their morning thing, so I'm sorry if you get a lot of cat noise. Right, I think they're the culprit for the colour. That's all for last. That's for last. Right, my grey. So this is just clean water. So I'm going to put my grey, because I don't want that I don't want that mottled if I can help it. So I'm just going to stick them in there because they've been rinsed out. That one I'm going to just add just purple to. That one I'm going to add just indigo to. And then this one. Now, how much are we going to scrunch? Yeah, I think I'm going to use that size pot. So I'm just going to get that rinsed off too, and then I can get rid of this clear water. Right, so that's going to get dyed in there. Let's just get these guys rinsed out. Now see, I bought these off a Facebook buy and sell page, so I suppose there's no way of knowing if they were going to be colour fast or not. I mean, it's only a little bit of dye come out, but having done yarn for years, you rinse until the fabric, until it runs clear. That's the rule. And then I wash. I comprehensively wash as well, just to be on the absolute safe side. Because I made little toys, and I wouldn't want nothing that was nothing hand dyed went for like small children's toys. They were miniature knitted things that I did. So yeah, right. Anyway, I'll just tip this away. I'll be back. So please be good. Right. So this is a bit drippy, but nothing too horrific. Now, from the tutorials, it looks like you start in the middle and you just scrunch it down into its small little shape. As expected, I have a helper, which is why I went and bought pots with lids. Okay, so I want that good and scrumpled. So first thing I want to do is put the purple on that. So that's my Hawk Run Hollow. So I want to put the purple dye on there. Okay, my gloves were dead, as expected. So I've got one glove on, but you know what my hands are like. I spend half my life with colourful hands. This isn't going to hurt me if it goes on my hands, so it doesn't matter, does it? Right, I've given that a good shake up, and I'm going to put a good glug in there. My purple, and then I'm going to put the salty water in there. And I've seen lots of people do the, let's see what colour it is. Yeah, that looks good and purple. Right, so let's go for it. Oh, big deep breath. I'm actually really quite nervous about doing this. Right, let's do it. Oh, it's purple already. Oh my god, that is totally the colour I want this fabric. If I can do this and then get the indigo scruffle on it, I'll be so happy. So I'm dyeing purple onto blue, so it should be, the blue should affect the purple, if that's how dyeing works. Right. I'm going to say that's enough of that. Of course, I'm using my ungloved hand to wipe away dye, because why wouldn't I? Okay, I'm going to get my fork and just make sure we're poked into it. What time is it? It's 9:15. So even if this doesn't do any mottling, I'm not bothered, because I wanted, this is the base colour. I'm going to put the indigo on top of. Where's its lid? There. So, anti-eric protection. Now in this one here, I'm going to put some of my salty water. I just want to be on the safe side to make sure my dye fixes. And I'm going to put in some purple. And then hopefully that's, yes, that's lighter than the other purple, because I'm not sure just how, well, it might. So I don't want this to be mottled. So I want to make sure the dye is completely free submerging it. I don't want to have mottled fabric for here. So I'm just going to put it, make sure it's right down in it. Well, it looks like that's going to have an effect on the purple. Let's hope so. Right, let's get the lid on that. Anti-eric device number 2. So, I'll give that a turn over and a slough about every now and again. Okay. So that's my purple. Let's put that there. Now, I want to make up some of this. So I'm going to put some grey, there. And I'm going to add some of my salty water. Wow, that is blue. I mean, it's grey, but obviously the grey is a blue base dye. I'm going to put quite a lot of water in that because I don't know what colour it is. I don't know how strong it is. I can see the black floating on the surface still. You can sort of see the pigment. I suppose it is going to be grey. Oh, and that's got a smell to it. Not unpleasant as such, but you definitely know. Right, as I'm moving the dye around in the back here, the fragments of pinks, obviously the colours that go up to make the grey. Now at work, weirdly, I make grey, to make grey paint, even though I have black, it's very, very purple based, the black pigment, which doesn't make a very good, see, look, can you see the dye's got pink in it, blue in it and pink in it. Now when I make grey, I use brown and turquoise, and I make the brown paint with turquoise, pink and orange pigment. So it's quite a lot of turquoise, a little bit of pink and some orange that makes my grey that I use at work. And they're actually very, very hard to mix, the greys, because you never quite get the colour you're looking for, and then you just have to keep on going. Right, still got some pink floating about in that. I've still got quite a big piece of this, so if this goes wrong, it doesn't matter. I've got plenty of fabric left. I just wanted a couple of shades darker than it currently is to make that nice grey band. Right, that seems to have taken up very quickly. Can you see very quickly that's gone very much darker? So I'm not going to leave that in there for very long, but I'm going to open it and move it quite a bit. Okay. Lid on there. Okay, time to mix up some indigo. Now I keep jars at home for all sorts of things. These are both honey pots. I keep jars because I make jam, I make jellies. Sometimes a jar is very useful. So these ones, when I keep a jar and I'm going to be reusing it for food, I take the label off properly. So I can see at a glance when I find these in the kitchen, but because the labels haven't been removed properly, that these are not food. They're not food jars. Okay. Here comes my indigo. Oh man, that's lovely. I don't want to knock my grey over. I'll just fold the grey up and put it in a little Ziploc and put it very, very safe. Very probably up in the shed. This is very similar to what I do at work. This feels very normal to me. My indigo is very, very blue. That's very blue. No, I'm not going to put any more on that because I do want a very dark colour. So I'm going to use up all the rest of my salty water in that dye bath, because I want to dye this a flat colour. Might need some more water actually in there because I want to submerge this rather than, I don't mind how deep this gets. Right, lid on because Eric's in here being daft. Just going to get myself some more salty water, back in a tick. Right, just got me some more salty water. And I think I've just popped a hole in my glove. Probably. Oh well. Because I want to let this out a bit. So the more water you put in, the more you dilute the dye and the less strong it's going to be. Is the general surmise of it. So when I'm mixing paint at work, the more thinners I put in it, the more meths. There we go. You can see that's a much lighter colour than that. That's the one I've just dibbed out here. And that's the colour it was. That one there's the colour it was originally. So the more you put on it, the more you let it out, the lighter it is. Right, I think that's going to not be dark enough, but I'm going to let that sit in there and we'll see how we get on. I only let it out that much because I wanted it fully submerged. Might have to go again with that one because that's not going to get, and I don't think that's going to get any much darker than that. I possibly want that a little bit darker than that. Right, before I go any further, I'm going to give this grey a quick turn over. Oh yeah, that's definitely darker than it was. Now, when you want mottling, you leave your fabric alone. I can see the pink. I can see where the pink's dye hasn't dissolved quite properly, and I've got pink mottling on that. So I'm just going to unfold. Now I need 2 gloves. Just going to unfold my fabric and make sure every bit has been in contact with the dye bath. I'm only going to give that another couple of minutes, and that's coming out of there because I think that's going to be dark enough. Okay, anti-Eric. Right, let's have a look at this one. And that's the blue fork. Because the forks are clear, I can just about see what colour dye. Oh yeah, that is quite a bit more purple than it was, and I know it'll dye lighter, and I know it's going to not quite look the same, but we can always put more on it. Right, get that back in there. I only wanted a little bit darker, just because the light. The only reason I didn't get the antique violet, which was the colour I wanted, was because it wasn't in immediate stock. And I've learnt from Casa Zanina not to order things that aren't immediately available, because if you order something that isn't immediately available, they don't dispatch your order until they've got all of it there. That's the only reason I didn't order it, even though it was the colour I wanted. Only that means that when they get an order, they're going to order it from the supplier, and when the supplier supplies it, then they process the orders, which when Renato Parolins Christmas, I waited 4 weeks for that to be dispatched, which was great because I couldn't get it anywhere else. Wow, that has changed quite dramatically. Let me find a scrap. Okay, there's what it looks like at the minute. And that's the colour the fabric was dry, admittedly dry, it was much darker wet. Started out at, yes, I've just put pristine fabric across a dye bath and across the top of my coffee. So that is sitting in that, so I'm hopeful we will get some purple mottling. That's been 10 minutes in there now, so I need to leave that alone. So while I'm hanging on, I've got one more dye bath here. What should we play with? Let's try this little piece of mauve, of the mauve with the speckle. I'm going to scrunch all that up, right up into the corner. I've watched all sorts of dyeing videos. Lady dyeing in Kilner jars. A lady who dyed in little Pyrex dishes. Hers were fantastic. If I get my act together, I'll try and link the best ones I've seen below. And then there's a lady who dyes in like plastic deli cups, like a pint pot, but they were wider at the bottom. They were about that wide at the bottom, whereas a pint pot would be about that wide. And yeah, hers were, she does, she's a really well-known floss tuber, but I can't remember her name. Oh, crikey. I've just started watching her floss tube because obviously I found her through looking for dyeing videos, but she does lots, and she's done a tutorial for caterpillar cross stitch as well, which was quite good to watch. But it was the same lady doing the same technique, so I'm like, right, okay, I see your technique. Okay, so I've got the piece of white and the smaller piece of the lilac, and I'm going to go in with the indigo. And what I'm going to do, is finish my coffee, get that out of the way before I have an accident and drink the wrong thing. Because then we'll be phoning poisons control together. Okay, that's very dark. That is very dark. So I'm just going to play with this. I'm going to put a few splodges of the very, very dark indigo on there. I'm going to just put a little bit of water on that. Just to let that out just a little bit, because that's very quite dark there. There we are, just letting that indigo out a bit because it's very wet. I can let out the dye quite easily there with a little bit of water. I'll just dilute that a little bit. I'm just going to drop that there. There we go, that's a little lighter, isn't it? Eric's up to nonsense. If you can hear the rustling in the background, Eric's up to some nonsense. Okay, so I've put some indigo. Oh yes, that's sitting on there, and then I'm going to go in with some purple on top, just to fill in the white bits, and we'll just see. We'll see how this works and behaves itself. I'm just going, the lady I watched, who I can't remember her name, I will put her name, I'll link her, I'll tell you what, I'll link her below, because I thought her tutorials were pretty brilliant actually. Okay. I thought, yes, you're really showing me very clearly. And I think she sells the fabric. So, you know, for her to do, I really rate these ladies who sell their stuff anyway, but offer up tutorials. I think that's really, really brilliant of them, because, you know, people like to keep secrets. Some people like to keep secrets, don't they? They don't like to share what they know. I'm not like that. You might have noticed I'm not one of those people. I'm like, this is how I do this, this is how I do that. It's not, oh, this is a secret, you have to go and buy it from me. No, no. It's not. I'll never be rich. I'll never be rich, but I will be happy. I'm at peace with that. I worked that out about myself a long, long time ago. There we go. So, either which way, that's going to be splodgety, because you can see it's splodgety. Right, so I've got those two sitting. Now, next thing I want to do is get that grey out. Where's the grey? Is this the one in the grey? because that is getting very dark. So I'm going to just pour into my next jar, coal honey jar, all my grey dye. I'm not going to hoard my dye, I'm not going to keep it indefinitely, but for right now, and equally I won't be putting this down the sink. What I'll do is put it in an old milk bottle, you know, an old 4-pint milk bottle, and I'll put it in the bin, and then the recycling, and then it'll go into the normal waste and they can deal with it. And if they deem it needs to be processed separately, it's sealed in a bottle there. I'm not putting this into the watercourse because I'm quite sure there's a fishy symbol on the back of this. No, but there's a warning. Sometimes you get a picture of a fish and with a line through it, meaning this will kill wildlife. That one doesn't have anything on it at all, but we have. Right, I've got a little tiny piece of grey that is really quite dark. I'll go and rinse that in a minute and we'll see what we've got. Similarly, I'm thinking I need to have a look at this now. Do we think that's going to be dark enough? It's certainly going to be a lot darker than it was. Right, I've got my grey, got that, there's my purple in there. I'll put my purple back in there. I know that's quite watered down, but you just add a bit more dye to it to make it dark again. So I reckon they're going to have about as much colour as they're going to need. Right, so on rinsing out the grey and the purple, I've noticed that an awful lot of the purple dye is coming out straight away. It's not fixing at all. So I've shoved them in the microwave for 5 minutes, put them back in the plastic tub, one each side in the plastic tub, before I rinsed all the colour out of it and shoved it in the microwave. Now that's what I experienced before with the sea green colour I dyed. And I dyed the Laguna, and it literally just poured out of it. It did take up the dye. That's what I'm doing my, I did my coffee buzz on that. I think this is the grey. So I've shoved them in the microwave to try and set it up a bit. Okay, so this here is the larger piece of mauve, and I'm going to try and make, oh, that's taking grey straight away, a sultry sort of Halloween-y kind of murky. Murky without any green. Murky with blue and purple. So I'm just going to try and do a mottly grey with this grey dye that I've already got on the go, left over from dyeing that other grey. I don't really want vibrant bold colours on the two that I've just dyed, the purple and the grey. I just wanted it a little bit more purple and a little bit more grey than it was, so hopefully they will be. I'm a bit nervous about the microwave, don't use it very often. Weirdly, the only times I do use microwave is to make popcorn. I used to heat up Lizzie's milk in the, she used to have a sippy cup of warm milk at bedtime after she was you know, big and weaned, every night, so I had a microwave then. And yeah, I set my yarn in it. Sometimes I set up the steamer and steam it, you know, wrap it in cling film and steam it. And sometimes I just stick it in the microwave instead. So it's in for 5 minutes. If nothing hideous has happened, there, it's just finished. If nothing hideous has happened to it when I go and check on it, I'll stick it on for another 5 minutes and then I'll carry on rinsing it. There we go. So the lilac splatter is no more. The lilac splatter is now grey. I think that's all the grey I want to put on that. There's a little bit of pooling underneath, but only a little bit, which is all I want, just a little tiny bit of pooling. So I'm going to put I just found Eric up on the counter here, looking into, thankfully you saw me wipe it out with the towel, so thankfully I've wiped it out. But yeah, this is paper from work. We get boxes delivered in this. It's plastic, it's plasticized. and one side is absorbent and the other side is completely waterproof. And I borrowed, you can see they've been folded up over time, so I kept a load of these. They usually get shoved in the bin. Right, I'm going to go and rescue the microwave. Okay, I've had my first disaster. That extra couple of minutes in the microwave, yeah, it didn't need that. The fabric was already dry. I have burnt 2 pieces of fabric. The fabric looks intact, but the colour is not. I'm yet to see what it looks like. It's just sitting in some bubbly water to rinse it, but yeah, I burnt it. I think I'm going to wrap in cling film before I microwave, and I'm going to go for 4 minutes and done. There's a learning curve. We've got quite a powerful microwave, you see. Anyway, I'm going to have a look in here. That's what it looks like. You see? Oh, I can't quite see underneath without pouring dye all over my hand. Second disaster. I just poured Blurple dye all over my hand. Up my watch strap. Okay, disaster number 2. Okay, we're starting to... Okay, now I'm slightly cadavery hand now. I usually have a cadaver hand at work. Okay, second disaster done. I'm clearly going to have one of those days. Oh dear, I just hope I don't mess up my Hawk Run Hollow fabric. I'm reasonably terrified of mucking that up. But if all else fails, I'll just dunk it in that indigo and it'll be indigo. Right, let's get these guys out of here. Let's get all the drips up so Eric doesn't come and slough them up. Oops! Okay.
I think we just need to do everything we can to help, or at least minimise the damage it causes.
Mara, you're in a brilliant position to promote the importance of education, because despite your enormous rugby talents and having this
Okay.
opportunity for a professional career in sport.
So now I have some Blurple.
Didn't you? I don't know where you're at. Did you manage to complete that?
There. I'm going to put the lid on that. Still deciding what I'm going to do with this. Right, so they're out. That's the grey, just sitting there in its little scrumple. It's got very little free liquid in it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get my jar of grey. Is that the grey? Yep. I'm just going to pour off my free liquid.
Yeah, Mara, everyone needs something to keep them going during these difficult
I'm not
times.
going to fuss it too much. I'm just going to pour off the free liquid into my grey. There. That's the purple. And that's the indigo. All I've done there is I've shoved the piece of blush into the salty water to try and put as much fixer in the water as I can. Right, okay, 2 disasters down. I'm just going to get this rinsed and we'll see what we've got with these bits here. I'm expecting a lot of this colour to come out as I rinse them. Let's see how much comes off it as I rinse it. I'm expecting substantial colour to come out of these. Right, you ready to see what I did? Here's the piece of plain purple, which is really, really mottly. This happened in the microwave. I kind of like that. Right, we'll see how that dries. Are you ready for the grey? You're gonna, oh my goodness. Wait till you see what I did to the grey. I have burnt that. Sorry, postman came. Can you see what I've done to this? How burnt is that? So I will be cutting. I'll dry it. I don't know if I've damaged the integrity of the fabric at all. If I have, and it's holes, to me that doesn't quite look like the fibres aren't breaking in it. I might just have not quite murdered that enough. I wasn't trying to murder it, but look how the dye's broken in the microwave, and I've got some really peculiar effects going on there and some very, very burnt bits. So yeah, that was disaster number one. That was the lilac, which again broke. You can see how the blue's broken out of the purple dye in the microwave. I murdered that in the microwave. So I'm probably going to cut another piece of the lilac and go again because I've got the dyes. So those two are unmitigated disasters. But I'm just going to go get the next two, which have just had 3.5 minutes in the microwave. Right, these have had 3.5 minutes in the microwave. I think I'm going to go even lighter next time. I did wrap them in cling film before they went in, just to try and hold them a bit, but you can see. Now, before they were microwaved, the dye coming off was purple. Now the dye coming off is blue. So I think these are going to be quite pale, which is fine. You know, I only want one, well, I want two very dark dyes. So that's the Ada that was speckly to start with. That doesn't seem to have any kind of, I think the purple is running just clean out. This one looks like it's got a little bit more purple in it. That was the piece of white. Anyway, yeah, and there's blue coming off them now, but you can see between them coming out of the microwave there, and that's one more rinse. You can see how much clearer the water is. So I'm going to go and get rid of them. All you do is you just rinse them and squeeze them and keep changing out the water. I'll just do this under the tap in a minute. So they look like they're going to get an over dye with purple very shortly. It's a lovely colour, and I know it's going to be much, much lighter when it's dry. I know that. Right. Okay, just going to get rid of this. Oh, I'm super excited. Postman dropped by more parcels. Packet from Lakeside Needlecraft just arrived. Oh, now I want to open that. Right, so they're going to sit there in their disgrace. Right. Oops. I think it's time we had a look in here. That's been nearly an hour sitting in that. In the blue opal. So that's, so I've got blue opal in there, and I'm going to tip away all the free purple in that. Right. I think what I want to do is try and set this up just a little bit. So I'm going to put this on, put the lid on that. I'm going to put this on pause. I'm going to get them rinsed. I'm going to put that and wrap it in cling film. I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to microwave it for a minute and then another minute maybe, just to try and set the dye a bit before I go in with the next colour. Right, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so there's the piece that was white. Bear in mind how much paler that's going to be when it dries. I am happy with that. That's going in the pile to be dried. This one here is the piece of Ada, which has taken up the blurple beautifully, but I'm going to put some purple on top of that. So that one's going to go in the I'm going to get dyed again pile. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my twin film. The box smashed to bits. The box got trodden on by a large heavy man. So the box is gone, which is a pain in the bum. Normally have a big catering Costco pack of cling film, but I'm not allowed to go to Costco because Costco is the other side of the country and we're not allowed to travel. So supermarket it is. Okay, all I'm going to do, that's a double wrap of cling film. I'm going to fill the box. And my hand look purple yet? So I'm going to collect this up somehow. And in it, as much of a scrumple as I can do it, without rinsing it at all, because I want to try and get the dye in. Right. I'm going to microwave that for a minute, and then possibly one more minute, and we'll see how we do, and I'll rinse out the box. Okay, so I genuinely don't know how we're doing with this one. I have microwaved it for a minute and a half and rinsed it until quite a lot of the purple's come out, has run out. It's definitely different from the blue. So what I'm going to do now, still very, very wet, is I'm going to re-scrunch it. Pretty sure I've holes in my gloves now. Ah well, I'm just using my hand. My fingers are starting to go slightly blue. So I'm going to re-scrunch, scrunchy scrunch, scrunch all the little, you can see still a lot of purple coming out of that, but it's not quite, it's a bit more transparent than it was. I'm going to give this a good scrunch into here. Oh my goodness, I just don't know what these are going to look like when they're done. Okay. So, corner in the corner, corner in the corner, corner in the corner. My Lakeside Needlecraft packets arrived. That's the rest of the DMC for the Best to See You with, and it should be the fabric and the outstanding DMCs to start a mini snow job, which I'm really looking forward to getting going with. I can see some variation there between the blue and the purple, but that is blurple and that is what I wanted. Now, can you see the tips of my fingers are ever so slightly blue? I can see it. Okay, so I'm going to just tip this away and then I'm going to get this into there. Right, give me a minute. Well, not a minute, a couple of seconds. Right, so that's scrunched and ready to go. That's the salty water. I'm just going to wring out the salty water on that because any salt on there is going to help, I think, the dye hit. Okay, so same thing again, fabric over and scrunch. Just scrunch and scrunch. This one's machined with very dark thread, so it looks kind of weird. And I think what I'm going to do with this is just put a little bit of, I'm going to go with the purple because the purple's not hitting as much as the blue. So I'm quite happy to go in with the purple. I'm going to go in with the purple in places. I don't want a lot. And then I'm going to go in with some blurple on top, which is in that pot there now. So, don't know how scrumpled we are there. Just wondering if that's going to fit the smaller box better. Right, I'm going to get rid of my salty water. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, oh, that's going to have a bit more dye on it. That's the blurple. I'm just going to lift this up and put it into the even smaller pot. So that's got an even, it's going to be even more scrunched, which hopefully will give us even more mottle. There's already some purple in there. You can see the purple in there is already striking. That's just from what was left in the pot, in the thing. So I'm going to get the purple, which is here. Looking at my purple, and I'm just going to, oh, this is going to be very pale. I'm just going to hit it just here and there with a little bit of purple. I don't even want to lose all the pink, I don't think. I'm assuming the purple's not going to hit very strongly. Try a tiny experiment. That is neat dye. Put the lid on it, shall we? So I'm just kind of because I know it's going to run out quite a lot. So if there is neat dye, oh, it's a big blob there. Okay, I'm just going to take some blurple here, just because I've got a very big spot of dye there. I'm just going to just touch it here and there with that. Okay, so that's the runny purple, which is soaked through, and I've put some neat purple on top as well. I'm just very quickly going to do the same thing to this one. Actually, I'm going to do what I do with yarn. I'm going to make a little scrumple. I'm going to get ready to wrap it up in cling film. And I'm going to do the same thing that I've just done with the other piece. Just put a little bit of purple on it, here and there. That's nowhere near bold enough. I'm just going to make that bit bolder. And again with the fork. Just going to just cut it right out, little bits here and there. I'm just going to add another little spoon of the purple, because I figure if it runs out, if it's on very strong and I lose a lot of the colour, hopefully some of it will strike. There's my theory. Now I'm going to leave that little piece of Ada. Tied up in a knot. Okay, what have we got left? Oh my goodness, the navy blue. Right, that's the very bold blue. Right, I'm going to go and get an old milk carton to get rid of this. Right. Let's get rid of this purple colour. Huh? And I think this has probably had long enough. That looks to me to be very, very dark blue, but I know I'll lose a lot of the colour. So here comes the indigo, which I'm going to use to over dye that. I'm just going to leave that on an angle to collect up the free liquid. Okay. So, here we go. I know this just looks like dark mess now, but I really don't want to put too much on here at all, I don't think. Right. I think I'm going to do what I just did before. Oh my goodness gracious me, that looks very, 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 very dark. A little bit. My hands have started shaking to anybody who's watching. Be a very, very dark bit there. Okay. I'm going to lid on that. And let's put that to one side. And let's get this last little piece here, which has got the grey. And I'm just going to do a little bit here of I'm just going to put a little bit of this dark indigo, this quite strong, I think it's quite a strong indigo one there, to the nooks and crannies where it doesn't look like Definitely don't want to overrun the grey at all. I want it to be smoochy, sludgy, dark, not lose all my grey. I'm trying to just pick out where the mauve's not, where I've still got mauve. Try and just put some indigo over the mauve rather than clean onto the grey. Oh, I don't know. Right, it looks like I've got it right to the bottom there. I'll give it a little poke. I don't know whether I want to put any purple on that. I think I'm not. I don't think I'm going to put purple on that. I think I'm just going to leave that. So what I need to do is go back, and that's the indigo. I need to go back and re-dye the grey and re-dye the purple, and not put them anywhere near the microwave this time. So I've got a full jar of those, so I'm going to pour this in here. That made that indigo. There. So I'm going to start rinsing that and see how I get on. Now, I know it's going to dry a lot lighter than it is currently, but that is very much darker blue than it started out. And I think that's going to be lovely. So I'm happy with that. I've rinsed it until it runs cold. I have not put this near the microwave. So I have rinsed that until the water runs clear. Happy with that. That's going in the pile to be dried. So while I wait on this one and that little experiment, which purple on one side, still quite bluey at the top, we'll see. Oh, I do have a slightly blue finger. That one, which has got some, sorry about that, some purple splatter. We'll see what happens there. I'm expecting that dye to just run out of that. And then I've got my Hawk Run Hollow, which you can see there's variation there. So I'm going to give them a good while. So I've just taken the sound off this because nobody wants to hear my old sewing machine clatter. I'm simply, and I've speeded you right up as well, I'm simply machining around the edges of the fabric, ready to dye it again. So what I've been doing, I've processed my fabric, and the grey is in all the leftover grey dye in there. The purple is in the leftover purple dye in there, and all I'm going to do to try and avoid them mottling up is for the next half an hour I'm going to swill them every couple of minutes, give them a really good swill. The lids are fairly tight, so nothing bad should happen, she says. What I've done here, that's the little ball. I've wrapped it in more cling film. That's the grey with the blue, with the indigo. I've wrapped that in cling film, and I thought I'd show you how I did that. So this one here, if I can get the lid off, is the blush with the purple, with the neat purple. And what I'm going to do, turn it over and wrap it quick. Oh, I can see that the purple's broken there into blue. So I'm going to give these a minute and then half a minute in the microwave. I'm going to wrap them so that they steam. Wrap them really, really well so that they steam in the hope of just setting up, especially this purple, in the hope of just setting this dye a little bit better. So they're all wrapped, lids on, going in the microwave. Yeah. So as it's drying, you can see it's a lot darker than it started, but it's by no means indigo. So I think before we get too dry, there, that bit there, that's dry. So it's not as dark as I would like it. So I'm going to redunk that. But there's the grey. These are not going in the microwave. These are just going to get rinsed. Trying not to poke that is so difficult. So I've taken myself off and I've done a load of dishes. I've put the dishwasher, I emptied the dishwasher, I put the dishwasher back on. I've been doing all sorts of stuff just to stop myself from poking at that, because I just want it to just sit. But I think it's had nearly long enough. It's now 11:25. Again, this one is not going to have anything else happen to it. Hi, so I'm back. This is not showing true to colour at all. I'm just going to try and buzz my light a bit. That's not the button. It's actually nearer that. There, that's kind of the colour it is. It's actually really quite pale and I want it darker, and I found a very mucky old pack of Dylon Navy, and I'm also going to put that back through the navy and this, which didn't actually change colour any great deal at all. So I have my able assistant wave in front of the camera. That's Flora. Can you please put an inch of water in there for me, dear?
Okay.
And we'll get these wet. We're in the kitchen, which is an unusual place for us, but everybody else is in the living room.
More, less.
Bring it to me.
No.
Thank you. Try not to wobble. Makes people seasick. So they are waterproof suddenly. You see, when it's wet, it goes really, really delightfully dark colour, but it's just not that colour really. I don't even think I want this so very, very wet, this one. That's the one I'm wanting to dye really, really well. And that one. Apologise about Jock, he's making horrible noises. Cannot be helped. Small, smelly dog. Right, you take that and tip that out for me, girlie.
Okay.
Okay, so all I'm going to do is mix up some. I had a pair of scissors. Oh, where's my glasses? I've been looking for them. Right, salt. 1, 2, 3. There we go. That'll help that set. And some navy blue. Huge dollop of navy blue dye. It's one of those clicky things and somewhere really close by, Flops, or have we not got any of them at the minute? Right, I'm just going to put that back there for now anyway, so it's not going to be on anything. Right. Oh, just used all the hot water with the making coffee. Right, put some hot water in there. It's alright, babe, don't worry.
Okay.
So,
Sure, one on time.
I'm going to stir that to make extremely salty navy blue water. Also very hot navy blue water. So, what I want to do is exactly what I did this morning, which was scrumple while you were sleeping, my dear.
Yeah.
This morning.
Oh, okay.
I want to put that on there and scrumple as much as I can. Do a scrumple? You have to do a scrumple. So I'm trying to collect all the fabric down and scrumple it up. No, you're rolling it up, honey. It needs to be scrumpled in a flat with all of the fabric down in the pot. Okay, hands out. You do. You scrumple that one. The more you scrumple it, the more mottling you get. So I want this navy blue mottled, hopefully set this time. Not by set I mean to take up the dye. I have navy blue hands. That's good. That means the dye works because I have navy blue hands now. Oh. I'm kind of speckled. You don't, because I'm the one that's dished the dye out.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I think that looks quite scrumply. So I'm just going to go in and start just laying on my navy blue, which I think is going to be very concentrated. I'm just going to put a drop more water in there. Let's try and get as much.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you need. Let's get a big piece of... What's that?
That's
Cheerio!
Cheerio.
Did you eat that? Don't eat it! It's been up there!
I didn't
Fine
eat it.
foil.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just going to put that in the bin.
I want that scrunched up into little... Do you see it? I want it like all concertinaed up so it looks like a brain on top. A bit like this.
Oh, okay.
A bit like brains.
Okay.
And I'm just going to feed the navy blue on top. Try and get some really good scrumply colour on it this time. Last time it was a little bit pale on the purpley blue. Now the boys are eating their kibble, so now they're being noisy in another way, but at least Jock stopped making that noise that he makes. It makes me feel a bit sick. Okay. Does it look like brains yet?
No.
Alright, I'll have a go at it. Okay, I've got some colour all the way to the bottom there. I'm going to put the lid on. There we go. So that's kind of finished quite abruptly there. But I'll show you now what I actually produced. So the two pieces that I dyed and re-dyed for the New World, the Barbara Anna. Here is my lilac, which is very much more lilac. I'll actually show you in my Flosstube tomorrow the contrast, because I don't actually have the piece with me right now, the rest of this piece. That's the piece that I dyed for the strip. So it's quite a nice, that's showing not bad for its lilac-y colour there. So it's a bit more purple than it was. And the grey piece that I had to re-dye is here. Now you can see it's kind of purpley. I think the grey dye split a little bit, and there's a tiny piece there where it isn't really mottled, it's just a different colour. So I'm going to I only need a small strip of this, so I'm kind of going to use where its colour's most even. And as a contrast, here's the platinum. There's how much colour it's changed. There's the platinum there. That's the colour it was, and that's the colour it is now. Sorry about my finger. I've ripped the nail, but it's going to bleed. So I've got a piece of micropore to hold the nail on so it grows a bit. It's neither here nor there. Anyway, so there's the colour change there. So I'm quite pleased with that. That went really quite blue. Grey. I'm looking at a piece of blue, so my brain said blue. So those are them. Now the two bits I ruined. Here's the purple that got microwaved and it split the colour. So actually I have a strip of slightly mottly mauvey fabric. That's absolutely fine. Both sides there. A happy little accident. Now the piece I set fire to is a bit scorched. Now what I haven't done is break the fabric. The fabric threads, I'm pushing quite hard on that, are intact. I've scorched it, but I haven't broken it. So I mean, yeah, I could do something spooky, grungy. I could do something on it. I mean, that top part there has got sort of rusts and greys, and it's quite mottled. I mean, that would fit a small on quite well there. That bit, not so much. But you know, if I was doing something really small, I could fit a couple of things. I mean, there's no way I'm throwing it away, because I don't throw anything away. Okay, I'll leave that bit till last, and that bit. Now, I've got 3 bits here. 2 bits I'm absolutely thrilled to pieces with. This bit here was a piece of the lilac. Oh, that's showing. Oh, actually, that's not. That's actually showing not bad. That's the piece of lilac speckledy 18, but I think it's either 20 count or it's just been dyed a couple of times. Cotton Ada, and I really like that. That had the purple on it. Now that Ada has got a couple of faults in it. Right in the middle there's a couple of faults in the Ada where there's one of the threads is broken on it. Anyway, but I'm really quite happy with that, and I'll certainly find something to stitch onto that. Now, this piece was the piece of 32 count blush, and I might put a fairy on here. I've got a tiny modernist pattern. I'll dig it out and show it in my Flosstube tomorrow. Here is the piece of blush that I did the purple onto, and I'm thrilled. It's so mottled. Alright, I've got a lot more purple down one end than the other, but if I do something and she's standing up, I'll put the purple at the bottom so it's more like ground, and then at the top it's more like sky. Where I dropped the neat rip dye, I've got spottling, I've got speckling. I'm so pleased with that. Look at that mottling. Right, the star of the show is the piece of 18 or possibly 20 count Ada that I put the grey and then just the indigo onto. This is the star of the show. Look at this piece of fabric, and it's a nice big piece. I'm going to have to find something fantastic to put on this. Look at this. This was the scrunch, and put it on with the spoon. Very, very little bitty, not much at all, and I just let it sit. The hardest bit of doing this was not poking them, not constantly poking at it to make it, to try and make it, you know, to look at it quicker. Now, two of my pieces, two that I really, really needed, I wasn't completely happy with. Those of you who follow me on Instagram or are in the Facebook group will have seen my first attempt at one of them. So I did some over dyeing. So it's the navy blue piece for the, hang on, ugh. Be careful with my magazine now because I've torn the cover off and sent it to Karen. Here, this here I wanted navy blue, and the dye didn't take onto the colonial blue. My indigo dye, I don't know if I set it wrong, I don't know if it was just I didn't put enough heat in it, I don't know what happened, but when it was dyed it was darker but not dark enough. It really hadn't taken up as much of the dye, of the indigo dye, as I wanted it to. So I'm going to insert a picture here of both the piece of navy blue and my piece for Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow as they were. I'll put them in here. There. So as you can see, the piece of navy blue wasn't navy blue enough. It just wasn't. It was sort of colonial blue but 2 shades darker. And my piece at Hawk Run Hollow, although it was absolutely gorgeous, it just didn't have the dark navy blue, and I wanted just a subtle little bit more dark navy blue in it. And I thought in my house I had the sachet of Dylon navy blue, the same as the sachet of grey that I used. I was sure I had one. I searched high and low, and I have lots of little cubbies, lots of boxes, I mean, you've seen snippy bits of my house. There's stuff everywhere. I did find a dye. I found emerald green, which is what we dyed Maddie's prom dress with. Thrilled to bits I found a new one of those, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And in the end, I did find it, and I found it in the drawer with all my cross stitch patterns in. Why it was in there, I don't know. I'm just glad I found it. So I set to, and I set up again, and I re-dyed, and my goodness me, I used a lot of salt, I used a lot of heat, and I used a lot of dye. Here is my navy blue. There's the little piece that fits this. It's cut to fit with a 2-inch border, that. And I'll start in the middle, and I'm just going to pull from stash. There. Now, can you just see there's the tiniest bit of mottling just here. It was obviously a little bit crumpled, or it wasn't wet enough when I put the dye in or something. I've got a few little paler spots, but it's a really busy pattern, and it's going to be under the tigers. So that to me is a win, much better than it was, and it's now a lovely, lovely dark colour. So while I was mopping up dye, I did a little tiny scrinkly bit on this that was the piece of white, which I had put my blurple onto, and it was a little mottled from the blurple, but it didn't have quite enough on it, and now it is. So I did a little bit of the navy blue, just a tiny, literally just a few tiny spoons here and there, just to get it to mottle up a bit. There we go. That's the colour it really is. Now the Barbara Anna sal that starts in February will fit on a piece of this, on this here, because it's 32. I've got just enough. There's going to be I think a centimetre margin either side, and obviously I've got the length, but a centimetre margin either side of the pattern. So I'm going to do her on this. Now, Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. I took a big deep breath, I scrumpled it up, and I poured navy blue dye on it. I literally held my breath for about, well, I was so nerve-wracked. So it was so beautiful, I didn't want to ruin it. But equally, it wasn't quite what I wanted. And I know it's pretty much, I'd say half the fabric's going to be covered with stitching at least. But it worked. And just that tiny subtle difference made such a difference. Now here, we're having a little snippety of the Flosstube you'll see tomorrow because I have started. Here's the, let me see if I can get it in. There's my fabric. There it is, and you can now see the navy blue mottling. The blue, the navy blue, and there we go. So I started top left here and I did the first piece and I thought, are the bats going to show up? So I stitched the first two bats. See, that's blowing the colour out. That's it, the true colour. So I stitched the first two bats and then I went across here, so I stitched the little raven thing. And then when I came down here, I stitched the two birds. Now this is full coverage to about there. This is the ships with the ship going down with the mermaid with "We Are Afraid." So sorry about my sad finger, my poor sad nail. And so that one's going to be pretty much full coverage. And this one here has got the 3 coffins in it. So you're not going to see a lot of that one. And I did the cat. While Maddie was in the dentist and I sat for an hour and a half in the car, I stitched the cat. I'm stitching on this right now. I've just taken this out of my Q-snap to show you. So what I'm going to do is stitch in this length of black, and I've got a length of black joined on there. I'm going to stitch in those 2 lengths. That this is the middle block, so it's the double length block. So I'm counting oh so carefully. And as you can see, I've got my border there, side, top, 2 inches, just over 2 inches there. And then it's going to come across, should come to about 2 inches there. So I tried to fix it so that the ones that had a lot of sky showing, this one here, and I think this block has got a lot of sky showing, and of course the witches in the middle, they should be, oh I've got blocks showing on the pattern everywhere. So I've tried to fix it so that I twisted the fabric round and looked at the blocks and sort of decided which ones I wanted the sky to show. Now the only one of these, I've slipped into Flosstube mode. I'll explain it all. I'll explain it tomorrow because this is the end of quite a long video, so you don't need me. Right, I'll stitch in that piece of black as well, and then I'm going in with colour. So when I show you my Flosstube tomorrow, which I was going to record it today, but I'm going to do it tomorrow now, there should be some colour on that piece because I'm going to get on with it. Right guys, so I actually found the dyeing really quite fun. It wasn't hard. It was nerve-wracking, but not hard, if you see what I mean. It's a leap of faith to do it, but then you've just got to think to yourself, at the end of the day, it's a piece of fabric. How bad can it be? And yeah, don't microwave in your very, very powerful microwave for 7.5 minutes. In the end, I did 1 minute bursts and literally stood by it and going, oh, oh, as it was microwaving, because I was terrified I was going to do this to this. But I didn't, because I learnt. Don't incinerate your fabric. Okay guys, I'll get this uploaded now and I'll be back for a Flosstube tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow for Flosstube. Bye bye for now.